So, what do you think about that idea of accepting things that you don't like?
Well, what if you don't like it and you don't want to accept it?
Well, that you can do that, can't you?
We're going to talk about that today.
We
aren't we?
are. It's
It's
amazing.
amazing how that just fits in perfectly.
Always.
It's almost like there's this divine orchestration,
One would think.
this universal divine mind that knows everything that's happening and knows what you're thinking and knows exactly what you need whenever you need it.
Yeah.
That would be great if it was that way.
Well,
wouldn't
it would be.
it? And it is.
Yeah. Would make it a little easier for me to be okay with the stuff that doesn't feel
Yes,
so good, right?
Yes, there you go.
Yeah. Well, our power for the month, which we haven't talked about really much yet, has been strength. Strength is this ability to endure, to stay the course, to last, to be persistent, to persevere, and to be stable. You know, in Romans 12:2, it says, "Be transformed through the renewing of your mind." Do you think that renewing your mind might take some persistence, some ability to stay the course, some lasting strength and power? We talk about a lot of principles and tools, and we give you a lot of information every Sunday, and never do we mean for it to sound like it's easy. It's simple, but you have to take it home and do it. You have to walk it out in shoe leather for it to be real for you and for it to be meaningful, right?
Do you not have to practice
You
this stuff?
do. You can't, you can just go home. You can just go home and say that was nice. But if you really want to see change in your life, you must transform your mind, which comes through practice and persistence and lasting strength and stability. So let's talk a moment about the season that we just entered into, known as Lent. Everyone familiar with the Lenten season? Anyone not familiar with the Lenten season? Oh, I'm going to be telling them stuff they already know then.
Oh, there you
Okay.
go.
Well, you know, during the season of Lent, we use affirmative prayer, and we can use it to release our habits. Anybody have any habits you would like to release? Anybody make any, what are those New Year's resolutions of things that you want to let go of in January, and now it's March, and you've already fallen off of the
February.
treadmill? Oh, it's February, yeah.
You're kind of getting ahead there.
I am.
That's okay.
So the power for March, for February is strength. Let's back that up. So yeah, we can use that to release our bad habits. And the idea during the Lenten season is to surrender and release these things to the divine and to do it consistently. How many know it often takes more than one time? We have to do something consistently for 40 days. The Lenten season lasts 40 days. And these 40 days begin on Ash Wednesday, which this year was on Valentine's Day, and it ends on Easter Sunday with what? The resurrection. When we are born as something new. This thing that we've been birthing for 40 days, right? So the season of Lent will end on March 28th. We have some wonderful booklets in the back, the Letting Go back there on the back table. If you'd like to take one with you, there are readings for each day of the season of Lent, and you can start that and begin your own practice with this. Use this season of Lent to transform and to make positive personal change. So is there something you want to see that you want to see changed? Is there a habit that you want to drop? Remember that most people are in denial about what's possible. We think, I'd like to do this, or I'd like to see this, but who am I? Or, how's that going to happen? Or, how's that going to work, right? There's a reason why we get stuck in those patterns of thought, and we get stuck in this thinking and feeling that change is so hard. Do you ever feel like change is really hard? How many have ever been on a diet? Change is really hard. But you know, it's all inside of you. The work happens on the inside. We can clean the cup, clean the cup, clean the cup, and it's great to have a clean cup, but the cup can still be dirty and unsettled on the inside. It's the inside of the cup that we have to touch and deal with. It's the thoughts and feelings that have become like an invisible pain wall and keeps you from advancing forward. It's like you ever hear that thing about I take one step forward and I take 2 steps back, and it's like there's this wall that just, bounces us back. It keeps us from advancing forward, but it's all a feeling, and it's all, thoughts that we have on the inside. So today, we want you to understand what holds that pain in place so that you can begin to dismantle it and experience some change in your life. It's time to let go of the emotional pain. Ooh, we don't like to touch that, do we? We don't want to go into the emotional pain, but we have to touch that emotional pain, let it go, and then stand in our true nature of strength and empowerment. The Bhagavad Gita says those established in self-realization control their senses instead of letting their senses control them. How often we get moved by what we see, by what we hear, by what we feel, by what we sense. Emotional pain is pain or hurt that we feel inside ourselves. And sometimes this emotional distress is the result of actions of others. And let me just say that emotional pain that you perceive is from others could have been actual, true circumstances, or it could have been something that you perceived. Other times it might be the result of, regret, grief, or loss. This is also called, you'll hear it called psychic pain, spiritual pain, emotional suffering, psychological pain, soul pain, or mental pain. Has anyone ever experienced any emotional pain other than myself? Is there anyone that has not experienced emotional pain? Because I want to talk to you after the service.
We'll
All right.
talk afterwards.
All right. Buddy, I've been with you a long time. I know you've experienced it. Yeah.
I just want to say that every day there's something that happens to me, and maybe to you, that brings humility to you. You know what I mean? To help you to be more in a surrendered state. It's like I just realized that I had the microphone backwards. And I don't know if it was coming out or not, so I had to turn it around. So anyway, stuff happens, right? And you didn't even know it. I just was real smooth and cool about it and just turned it around, kept going, right?
You revealed your emotional pain.
Yes. Emotional pain accumulates over a period of time. Layers upon layers. Pain begins to build this wall of desperation, confusion, and fear. It is this underlying emotional pain that is just below your conscious mind that many times control us, control how we are in the world. It pushes and pulls us and affects every area of our lives. That emotional pain is constantly bleeding through. Whether you realize it or not, whether you know it or not, it bleeds through into your life and has an effect. So it's important to understand how this works, what it is, so that we can begin to what? Let it go, release it, and turn down the microphone. Just a little bit. Thank you. See how smooth that was? Because we don't really understand what we're fighting against. You know? It's easy when you look out here and you say, oh, I've got issues with so-and-so or this one or that one. That's easy to do because you can identify, okay, we've got an enemy out here. And so we're going to bomb this country because they're our enemy, right? We do that but you know what's really going on? The war is not out here. The war is in here. There's a civil war going on between the head and the heart. It's sometimes not that civil, right? So we're fighting against shadows. It's an invisible wall. And it has to be revealed to you so that you can see what it is, so that you know what you're really dealing with. In the scriptures it says we don't wrestle with flesh and blood, but against those thoughts and principalities which are those principles that we have made up about things. Those thoughts that we have bought into that are not true. Okay? So here's an example. You want an example? I'm sitting on the couch in my living room, maybe reading a book, watching a program or whatever I'm doing, and I start to feel a little anxious. And so what do? Do I sit there and feel it and explore it and say, oh, what is this? Or do I distract myself? So I get up from the couch and I make that long trek, about 10 steps, to the refrigerator. I open the door and I find something in there, some leftovers that were so good, and I eat it. And what does that do? That mutes and stifles that pain and distracts me from the isness of the moment. Remember, isness is our business? It distracts me from what's really going on. I'm not being present with this inner world. I'm not being present with me. And so I grab something out of there and I eat a cold piece of pizza. It was really good yesterday, but today it's, And I stuff those feelings. And then I move on to the next thing. And then I go sit at the computer. I'm going to do some work. But here's the thing. I'm carrying this negative energy with me. And so I sit down at the computer and the darn thing doesn't work right. What's wrong with this computer? And in the old days, for some of us, you might have seen it laying outside and the window is no longer there. Right? You get what I'm saying? But at least we've got enough now to where we stuff it even more. We stifle our feelings and we go, well, I better call my tech person and find out what's going on, right? Not realizing that I am out of alignment with myself. Because of what? Because of a feeling. I'm letting a feeling run my life that I won't look at, that I'm in denial of, that I'm not facing. Now, this doesn't apply to everybody. There's some of you who are saints and gurus. Bless your heart. We respect you. The good in me beholds the good in you, right? The weird in me beholds the weird in you, you know? So instead of maybe there's another way to do that. Instead of stuffing my face and trying to distract myself, I could make the choice to allow that emotion to be felt. I could go into them, bring my awareness into those emotions, and ask myself, what is this? It could be a feeling of loneliness, or anxiety, or guilt, or some hurtful memory that I'm trying to block out. You know? And we're being driven just like those self-driving cars. We're being driven around and not in any kind of managing our feelings. So, the emotional energy I have collected from these past experiences. See, this is where we kind of get confused. Well, we're not supposed to think about the past. Well, it's not the past. It's the right now. You understand? Those emotions and feelings are here with you now. And so that's why we need to deal with them. We need to deal with them. Would you agree with me? Yeah. Does this make sense?
Yeah, so how do we let go of these things? Well, the thing we don't do is we don't bypass them.
Yeah.
We deal with them. We work with them. If you have been severely mistreated in your past, if you have lived in some kind of chaos that has caused you pain, you need to go into that and feel it and scream about it and be angry in the moment about it and let it out. What happens when you have a wound that you don't tend to, that you get dirt in, it festers. It's the same way with this internal stuff. If we don't deal with it, it will begin to fester. And when something begins to fester, it starts affecting the whole, right? So we don't want to bypass whatever it is that's there that we need to look at and deal with. How we deal with it is using the power of our strength. I'm able to face it. I am able to face it. Did you know that you are strong enough to face whatever it is? You can. You don't fight it, but you affirm it. You affirm your strength in it. I affirm my strength and my power to endure, to stay the course, to be persistent, to persevere, to be stable. I affirm that for myself. But it's uncomfortable. Yes, it is. So what we're saying this morning is that we have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And we affirm to ourselves, I'm okay in the discomfort of the moment. Whatever it is that's coming up, I'm okay. Peter McWilliams says, be willing to be uncomfortable. Be comfortable being uncomfortable. So we affirm, I'm willing to be uncomfortable at this moment. It doesn't mean you're going to be uncomfortable forever, right? At this moment, I know it's a temporary feeling and that it's being released. I accept the feeling that's here and now, and I'm willing to let it go. So what happens many times, we feel the uncomfortable feeling and we submerge it, we push it away, we push it down. Debbie Ford has a beautiful illustration of a pool full of beach balls. And it's like they're floating on the surface, and I'm pushing this one down over here, and I'm pushing this one down over here, and I got my foot over on this one, pushing this down. I can't hold all those beach balls down. And those beach balls are those things in our life that oftentimes are trying to get our attention and saying, hey, here I am, deal with me, look at me. And instead, we're trying to push them down, we're trying to submerge them, and we submerge it, but what happens? Something else over here gets our attention, and we go to deal with that one, and this one pops back up. It's like you talk about the whack-a-mole, you're constantly whacking these things down. So it's important when these things come up to know that you are strong enough to look at it. You're strong enough to deal with it. And you're strong enough to be uncomfortable with it temporarily. Affirm. I may be alone, but I'm not lonely. You were talking about, this feeling of loneliness that comes up. Okay, when you're sitting on the couch and something comes up and you realize, I'm feeling lonely. Well, I affirm that I may feel alone, but I'm not. The divine is always with me. Loneliness is just a temporary feeling. I am not alone. I may feel this way right now, but here's another thing. I am not my feelings. I am not my feelings. Feelings come and feelings go. They're like the waves of an ocean, right? I'm the observer of the feelings. Aha! This thing has come up. I'm feeling this thing. Let's look at this. Let's figure this thing out. I'm the observer of it. I watch these feelings come and I watch them go. I'm not afraid to feel insecurity, uncertainty, anxiousness, or any of those so-called painful emotions, because I know that just beyond that momentary feeling is clarity and freedom, and I can overcome it. Socrates said the secret of change is to focus all of your energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new. If you don't like the old, then why give it all of your attention? And when I say that, it sounds contradictory to what I just said. But we give it our attention, we give it our energy, believe it or not, when we're constantly pushing it away. Because it's like this thing over here that we need to deal with that we're not, it's like the closet you have at home that's full of junk, and every time you pass by it, it calls out to you. You need to open me up and clean me. I'll deal with you later. But it's always got your attention, right? So we want to invite you to do some homework this week. Oh, say with me, I love homework. Even though it may make me uncomfortable, I love homework, right? There is a wonderful documentary about Vipassana. How many of you have ever heard of Vipassana? Good for you. All right. It is a practice that they took into a prison system in India where the most violent and hardened prisoners were housed. And they were brought together to do this practice, and they were encouraged to feel their pain through meditation. It's quite a practice. So we're going to post a link to that documentary when I do the talk tomorrow, and you go to the talk, there'll be a link for that documentary. And we want to invite you to take time, it's not very long, to take time to watch that this week and see what happens when these hardened criminals make the choice to go into their pain.
In reality, we are all prisoners of our own mind, constantly seeking parole.
Yeah.
We have become hostages of our anger, fear, insecurity, and our overwhelming desires. We get stuck within the four walls of the mind and with our own personal tormentors, our own personal villains and accusers and wardens, right? We've even got prisoners in our minds that we torment from time to time. You know what I'm talking about? You got some of those? And this is the question they asked in the documentary. They said, is there anyone that does not at times wish they could take something that belongs to somebody else? Is there not any one of us that has not, at least once, wanted to hurt someone else? And what they were saying, that it is a thin line that separates each one of us from someone who has given into these thoughts and are put in jail for it. Maybe we never crossed that threshold from thoughts to action, but still, we're so much alike in many ways. Inside of our minds, we're all potential criminals and we're all potential Christs. Right? Something to think about. So this was one of the largest prisons in India where this happened. And they had over 10,000 people. This was back in 1993 that they did this experiment. There were 9,000 of them that were awaiting trial. Some of them were there because they were pickpockets. They would have to wait for 6 or 7 years before they could get to them. And then they would be given a sentence of 1 year. You know, pretty rough place. But then one day, they had a new warden who came in. And she just happened to be the first female police person. Isn't that interesting? And she believed in solutions and that there were answers to everything if one were just willing to look for them, right? How many know there's an answer for everything? If you're just willing to be open and look for them. So she began making changes by allowing the prisoners to be treated like human beings. Isn't that interesting? And so with the better treatment, and they learned meditation, many of the prisoners became better people, and they begin to express their remorse for what they've done, but they also begin to find the joy of life. And it's amazing when you watch it at the end of this process. Many of these prisoners, they come out and they're hugging the officers. You know, they're hugging the security person, the jailers. They're jailers, and it's really amazing. So what is the goal of meditation? And that's what we're really talking about. Meditation has to do with your mind and what you do with it. Because see, every one of us, we live in our minds, don't we? We live here. Let's make it a sacred space, right? And the goal of meditation is to see yourself as you truly are. But you got to remove the barriers first before you can see who you are, right? Those barriers have to be removed. And you begin to see your true nature. Now I want to share with you real quick an experience I had about this. When I was a young boy, I was taught to clean my plate, okay? Because of all the starving children. I always wondered, why not just give it to them, you know? And so I learned to clean my plate no matter what. And so that habit became part of me. And there was a shame in this idea that if you don't eat it all, oh, shame on you. You're bad. You know? And so there was this anxiousness in me. And I remember, you know, all my life, cleaning my plate. And you know what happens when you clean your plate? Well, there's still more in the pot. Oh. And unconsciously, you go back and you get more and more and more. So I remember being, very overweight. We won't go into numbers. So I began to learn about meditation, began to learn about some of these ideas, some of these principles, you know, and so I thought, okay, let's see if this really works. And one day, I was sitting at the table, and everybody else had gotten up, and I was still sitting there, and I still had food on my plate. I was about halfway through, you know, but I was full. And before, I would just go ahead and eat. Even though I was uncomfortable, even though I was stuffed, right? Because there was this insecurity, this fear, this anxiousness. And boy, it was intense. And so I thought, okay, let me just breathe and just observe it and watch it. And it was hard because the feeling told me, you'll never deal with this. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. And so I said, well, I'm just going to do it anyway. And so I just sat there and continued to breathe through it. And in a few moments, it was a couple minutes, this discomfort just kind of evaporated. It just evaporated. I don't know where it went, but it was gone. It was amazing. And I looked down at the food and said, oh, I don't want that. And I remember pushing the plate aside. Oh, I don't want that. You know? But there's this thing in our minds where we think it's so hard. We think it's so, and it feels like it is, see? It feels like it is. But if you just stay with it, and you get a couple of these wins under your belt, you begin to empower yourself. Isn't that wonderful? Mm-hmm. Let's take a breath. We're going to turn down the lights. In Unity, we talk a lot about self-empowerment, right? Because it's your life. It belongs to you. What do you want to do with it? What do you want to do with your mind? What do you want to do with your pain, your emotional pain? You want to continue to carry it for the rest of your life? Or would you like to, maybe a little bit at a time, begin to deal with it, right? So Leah's going to do a song for us about prayer, because all this kind of comes together. Affirmative prayer. Our thoughts are our prayers, right?
Our thoughts are prayers, and we are always praying. Our thoughts are prayers. Take charge of what you're saying. Seek a higher consciousness, a state of peacefulness, and know that God is always there. And every thought becomes a prayer.
Let's sing it together.
Our
Thoughts are prayers, and we are always praying. Our thoughts are prayers. Listen to what you're saying. Seek the higher consciousness, a state of peacefulness, to take a good deep breath. Allow your mind to be still for just a moment. Maybe you've noticed that sometime when you get still, that's when everything starts to come up. It all comes up, it bubbles up. And maybe something is coming up for you right now. Maybe not, maybe so, depends. But whatever it is, I invite you to just sit with it. Allow yourself to feel it. It's just energy. It's just energy. So breathe through it. I'm okay being uncomfortable. At this moment. Because I know it's just temporary. And I allow for the release of this binding energy. Because once I open my hands, it can leave. It can go. I accept that these feelings are here now, but I am willing to let it go. I may be alone, but I'm not lonely. I may have challenges, but if I observe and watch and listen and pay attention, things can change. My mind is renewed. There's a healing that happens within me. And it's okay. I'm just letting it all be okay right now in this moment. And I breathe freely, consciously. And I gain that moment of clarity and freedom. Right here, right now. If there's someone on your heart this morning that you'd like to hold in prayer, I invite you to whisper their name or names aloud at this time. And we honor them. We respect them. We are grateful for them. We know that they are where they are in this moment. And so we surround them with our prayers. Freedom. We affirm freedom and liberation. We affirm compassion and understanding, wisdom and guidance and abundance. We affirm joy and peace for each one. Opportunities. We see doors opening. We send our love now. We are grateful. I invite you right now to just consider all the people in the room and all those who are watching online that are here in this moment with us now. We recognize those from the past and even those from the future. We say, and those that are here now, we say hello to all of these divine beings that are a part of this unity community. And so breathe, breathe, consciously breathe. Fall in love with your breath throughout your days. Notice your breath. That spot just below your nose. And the energy, the life force that goes in and out, in and out. How beautiful it is. How wonderful it is. So we give thanks today for our community, for these times, these healing moments. These healing moments. And so for just a moment, I want to leave you in the silence to just be and just breathe. What a beautiful moment that we've created together. We're grateful for that divine spirit. Thank you, thank you, thank you. The name, the nature of all the good, the holy, the love, the Christ, the Spirit. Thank you, God. And so it is. Amen. All right, let's stretch. Invite you to stretch slowly. Be aware of the back. Yeah. Love your back. Amen, somebody.
Oh,
All right.
got a little drowsy there in that
Oh, good.
quiet spot. Do we have anyone that's joining us for the first?